Welcome, geometry students, to our first online YouTube lesson. Let's look at the problem for today. We're going to find the area of a rectangle. Notice what I've done. I've given you a rectangle that is not at right angles to the coordinate plane. So the very first thing we're going to do is to prove that this is a rectangle. A rectangle is a parallelogram, right? So that means that the opposite sides should be parallel to each other. It must have right angles, okay? And how do we find out if an angle is a right angle? We compare the slopes of the two sides of the angle, and they should be opposite reciprocal. So let's prove that this is a rectangle. Let's find the slope of the four sides. Okay, I'm going to start with this point here and that point there. Now take a moment in your notebook, copy down this problem with these coordinates. You can pause the video at this point. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do to find the slope of the line segment between these points is to write the points down. In my method, I put them one on top of the other. Okay, we might want to remember that the first is your X, the second is your Y, right? And that's important because slope is going to be the difference in our Y values over the difference in our X values, okay? But let's first take our Y values because the top is going to be the Y. So I'm going to do 0 minus 6. So 0 minus 6. And then I'm going to put that over 4 minus negative 2, which I'm going to simply write as 4 plus 2. And then if you see, that gives us what? Negative 6 over 6. And we can simplify that to 1. All right? So this line simply has, this side simply has a slope of 1. Okay, so that was this side right here. Let's find the slope of this side right here, the point 4, 0 and the point 1, negative 3. Okay, so go ahead and try that on your own if you want. I'm going to subtract the Y values first. So 0 minus negative 3 is just 0 plus 3, or like 0 plus 3. I can just put 3. And then the X's, 4 minus 1 is 3. All right, and that gives us a slope of 1. Notice I forgot up here to put my negative. You see that? That's going to be very important. Why? Negative 1 and 1 are opposite reciprocals, right? Remember, 1 is a reciprocal of itself. And of course, negative 1 is an opposite of positive 1. This right here is a right angle. Okay? So that alone does not yet prove that it is a rectangle. I need one more thing. I need to know that this slope is the same as this slope, or this slope is the same as that slope. Let's go ahead and find the slope of this side right here. If you want to do that on your own, you can pause the video right now. Let me do my Y's first. Be careful here with your signs. We get what? Negative 3 minus 3. That's not 0. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. 1 minus a negative 5 is positive 6. Okay, so once again, we get, just like we did up here, we get negative 6 over 6, which is negative 1. So what have we shown? We've shown that this side and this side are parallel. That this side is parallel to that side. So we now have enough information to definitively say this is a rectangle. The next step is to what? Find our base and our height. So we can either find this side, the length of this side and this side, or the length of this side and this side. Doesn't really matter. Hint, we're going to use distance formula, or better yet, we're going to simply draw, since we're on the grid, we're going to simply draw a triangle and use Pythagorean theorem. All right, go ahead and try it yourself, or on a piece of paper, do it along with me. I'm going to simply draw a right triangle like so, right? To find my base, I simply need to do what? Side squared plus side squared and take the square root of it. So if I count this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this side is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this side is 6. Right? 6 squared, which is 36, right? Add another 6 squared. And then don't forget, we need to take the square root of that. Okay. Now, you might just say, well, that's the square root of 72. And you would not be wrong. But remember, we need to simplify this. And of course, what perfect square goes into 72? Well, isn't 36 a perfect square? And 72 is just 36 times 2. So we can say that this equals the square root of 36 times the square root of 2. 36 is simply 6, and square root of 2, nothing we can do. The base equals 6 times the square root of 2. Let's see if you could do the next one on your own. Take the shorter side, which we'll call our height, find out the height of this rectangle, okay? You can pause it this time and try that. To find the height of this triangle, I drew a right triangle up here, which is 3 units by 3 units. And let's see here. So the height is going to equal the square root of 9 plus 9. That's going to equal the square root of 18. Can you simplify that now? That equals the square root of 9 times the square root of 2, which is simply 3 times the square root of 2. All right, now we have our base, which is 6 times the square root of 2 units. And the height is 3 times the square root of 2 units, also one-dimensional. When we multiply them together to get the area, we're going to get units squared. So the base is 6 times the square root of 2 units. The height is 3 times the square root of 2 units. And the area then is the base times the height units squared. So notice when we multiply, we can just multiply the 6 times the 3 to get 18. And the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 simply gives us 2. And 18 times 2 is 36. And our answer would be that the triangle is 36 units squared. Okay, if you need to pause it and go over the work, that's fine. One more thing to do, which is the smell test. Does that make sense that this rectangle would have an area of 36 square units? Okay, so I get somewhere around, if I take 25 plus my 9 that I get from my half squares, I get about 34 squares. Makes pretty good sense, right? That 36 is a fair answer. So at this point, you can go to miller.mathevolution.com and you will find a link to a Google form where you can try out a problem. Make sure you have some grid paper with you. It'll make it much easier for you to work the problem on. All right, feel free to watch this video again if it helps you. And if you have any questions, you can either email me or you can put a comment below and I'll get back to you. I'll respond to you. Okay, you guys have a great day.